I survived basically on protein shakes and oatmeal for about 6 months. It's really all I could get down without it hurting so bad.
Welcome to Believe in Progress, the American Association for Cancer Research Foundation podcast. Join us and be inspired by the incredible stories of those who have faced cancer with strength and resilience, and the medical professionals who are working tirelessly to find new treatments and ultimately a cure. Believe in Progress isn't just about the science of cancer. It's about the human side of this disease. Together, we can make progress in the fight against cancer and bring hope to those who need it most. Welcome to the Believe in Progress podcast, brought to you by the AACR Foundation. I'm your host, Mitch Stoller, the Chief Philanthropic Officer at AACR. Today's episode is incredibly special to me personally, as I'm joined by two of my closest friends, Steve Hatlestad and Dave Clark. Steve and Dave have been by my side through thick and thin, and their dedication to making a difference in the lives of others is truly inspiring. Whether through their professional endeavors or personal passions, they have both demonstrated an unwavering commitment to helping those around them and fostering positive change in their communities. I'm thrilled to have them here today to share their journey, insights, and the powerful impact of friendship and collaboration in driving progress. I've known Steve and Dave for over 58 years, and it's such a great honor and pleasure for me to welcome you both to Believe in Progress. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Mitch.
So, I would love for the audience to hear a little bit about your backgrounds, where you grew up, and kind of what you've done professionally. We'll start with you, Dave. Could give us a little bit about your background, please?
So I'm from Maryland. I'm 71 years old. Lived there my whole life. Met Steve and Mitch in our early teens on the basketball courts. Great rivalries, great friendships. Many memories, most of which I will not share on a podcast. And of course, we share the stories and we do a lot of remembrance, and the stories always get better. And that's a special part of friendship. Went to college and then went to college again. Got a CPA. I worked for 36 years for a federal agency. I retired. I took one day off, and then I started my next career. I'm the auditor for a local public school system. I'm a survivor, as you probably can imagine, 20 years. I've been through a lot of other orthopedic challenges, but I'm proud to say that I wake up every morning happy to be alive, looking forward to the day. 3 miles a day I walk, I even lift weights. You may not believe that, but I do. And occasionally get out there and play a little golf. But very happy and very pleased to be here.
Very good golfer, I must say. Steve and I always are amazed when we play with Mr. Clark. He's quite the golfer. So, Steve, tell us a little bit about your background as well.
Well, I too grew up in Maryland and ended up going to Blair High School in Maryland and had a wonderful time there. I'm now living in Kansas City, actually Olathe, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City, southwest suburb. So go Chiefs. We've been started off, I graduated from the University of Maryland, happened to play basketball with these two gentlemen throughout my whole life. And as Dave said, we had a lot of good competition and a lot of stories we can't really talk about today on the podcast. But I ended up doing senior living for 46 years before I retired about 2.5 years ago. It was a tremendous career, and I've always enjoyed taking care of others, and senior living really kind of took to me. And so I never did anything else after I graduated college. I just ended up loving senior living. I've done it for 46 years, as I said. It's been a rewarding career. And again, Mitch, thanks for having us today. And I'm also a survivor of throat cancer. I had that, it's been 2.5 years now since my last chemo and radiation treatment, and feeling pretty good, and progress reports have been great. So just had my nose scoped the other day and everything's still clear. So I'm as Dave said, happy to wake up in the morning, and then I love playing golf as well. Not quite as good as Dave, but getting there.
You're better now.
We're thrilled to have you here. But if we track back, guys, 58 years ago, and we met on the basketball courts. I mean, that's pretty much where we met. And I know that, I've attributed sports and basketball to whatever little success I may have had in life, and what it taught me a lot about perseverance and dealing with things. I mean, how do you guys feel about your background in sports and athletics, how it may have framed your outlook on things?
Oh, I think without a doubt that from my standpoint, being part of a team and being part of collaboration with other people from different backgrounds, different ethnic groups, and those kind of things was something that really helped me in my career and throughout my whole life. I'm a big team sport guy. The grandkids are in sports. I'm proud to say my daughter played collegiate soccer, and she really got that whole idea. And I think it's really helped my work ethic over the years too.
Yeah, we won't hold it against you because you're a Chief fan. Because sitting right here in the pinnacle of sports, Philadelphia, we're pretty darn good, right, Dave?
Supposed to feel sorry for me. I'm a Washington fan, so all of our teams are at the bottom and have been for a while, but eventually we'll get over it. Yeah, I did want to share. I have the same experience as Steve did, and Mitch, I'm sure you too. But pickup basketball is what I remember the most. And you show up on the court, who's got next, and you have to learn to adjust real fast. You have to learn to make connections real fast, and you have to be ready to play. The feedback is immediate, and that does give you a skill in life. You're going to be handling a lot of things in life. And when you need to be able to react fast, adjust fast, be real, and learn how to make it work with other people. So you're right. Basketball as a sport, all sports, but basketball, pickup basketball in particular, teaches you a scrappiness, if you will, really just a get real. And that just helps you whenever you get that inevitable surprise during the day that you weren't ready for.
Right.
Let's get to it.
Guys, can you let's go back and let's talk about your initial diagnosis and reaction to your initial diagnosis. Share with us the moment perhaps that you were first diagnosed with cancer. What were your initial thoughts and emotions? Steve?
I got diagnosed in April of 2020, I guess it was now, or 2021, I guess it was. It was kind of interesting because I retired December 31st of 21 and started getting a sore throat like right after I retired. And I thought, this is, something will go away like most guys do. We kind of put it off and say it's going to go away. And it just never did. My wife, who's a retired nurse, Deb, kind of convinced me in her way of let's go see an ENT and let's find out what's going on. And that's when I got the diagnosis. They did the nose scope and saw the cancerous tumor down in the throat. And at that point in time, they said that we got to do something. It doesn't look like surgical procedure has to take place, but we need to get you chemo and radiation as quickly as possible so it doesn't grow. My initial reaction was kind of disbelief, I guess, because I've always been pretty darn healthy my entire life. I try to stay active. I do a lot of I play basketball. I play a lot of golf. I walk a lot. And so it was an initial shock. But I think going back to your analogy with sports, it was just one of those, okay, I'm in a new pickup game. I've got to react. I've got to react in a positive way. I think that's one of my fortitudes is I've always looked at the glass half full. And I think in this particular case, I did as well. I said, I've been through other things in my life. This I can beat. And that was my whole attitude. So I walked into it knowing I was going to beat this thing. And I just never afraid from that. And one of the things I think I told Dave when we were out visiting with each other that one thing I did not do is I did not go on the internet and find out all about this because I thought it was just not going to be good if I did that. There's all the horror stories out there. So I took it as it came, kind of like I do with most things. If once it hits me in the face, I'll deal with it. But I wasn't going to get reactive to it and those kind of things. So I think that's kind of my story there was, and going through, it took a lot out of me. I
Steve,
lost 70 pounds.
What was your diagnosis? What was the actual diagnosis?
Throat cancer.
And did they give it a stage? Was there like stage 1, 2, 3, or 4, anything like that?
It was a stage 2, so that was a positive thing because it could have been a lot worse than that. So I caught it early enough. Thanks. I'll give that credit to Deb for forcing me to get to an ENT and look around. But the hardest part of this whole thing was not being able to eat. My throat was so sore that I survived basically on protein shakes and oatmeal for about 6 months. It's really all I could get down without it hurting so bad. It got to a point where the doctor was thinking about, we need to put some type of tube, G tube in him or an NG tube in order to get the nutrition. And I said, I am not doing that. I will force myself to eat. And so that's where oatmeal and protein shakes became my friend. Even though I lost a significant amount of weight, it was just one of the things I did not want any more invasive procedures done that I already hadn't gone through. So,
and for our audience, we just recently saw Steve and Deb in Maryland, and Steve's about 6'2", 6'3", and a pretty big guy. And you lost 70 pounds. Is that what you said?
Yes,
that's a
lot.
Sure
of, did.
Lot of weight.
Overall, I've gained. Yep, gained 10 of it back though. Yay!
Good for you. Good for you. And Dave stands about 6'4", 6'5", and Dave, tell us a little bit about when you first learned about your cancer and how it even came about.
I am 6'4", 6'5", but I think I weigh less than Steve naturally.
But back in the day, you were a big boy. Back in the day, you were a big boy.
Back in the day. My story, I've had a chance. I'm 20 years since the initial diagnosis, and it came back a couple years after that. But my story is really one of heroes, if you will. I had a sinus infection. I had never had a surgery. I'd never been in a hospital. Had a sinus infection. I called my primary doctor, who would periodically just say sure, because I had chronic sinus problems. He prescribed the antibiotic. He had changed practices, and it had been about a year. And he said, you need to come in. I can't prescribe it over the phone. Just get a baseline. So I went in, and sure enough, I had a horrible sinus infection. He gave me an antibiotic. And I put my hand on the door and went to leave, and he knows me well. And he said, Dave, before you go, can you do me a favor? Do you a favor, doctor? Sure. What is that? He said, would you go call someone and take a blood test? Why would I take a blood test for a sinus infection? He says, he was lying to me. He says, baseline, because he had seen something that I didn't realize. He said, just for me, I'm just trying to get a baseline. I'm in a new practice, whatever. I went over, and I had a serious issue. Went and got a endoscopy. The next day, they got me right in, and they told me I had a grapefruit-sized tumor in my stomach. My cancer is GIST, gastrointestinal stromal tumor. It's very rare, actually. So I have a nurse friend, an oncologist at Johns Hopkins. Again, somebody knows me really well. She grabbed me by the arm, and she said, I've known her my whole life. For once in your life, you're going to listen to somebody, and you're going to do exactly what I'm telling you to do. And I did. So I checked myself into the ER at Johns Hopkins. I asked him how I was doing. I said, well, according to the blood test, you're legally dead. You need surgery right this second. I love telling this story. And I said, and I had an index card I was reading from. He said, who's your surgeon? And I said, well, my surgeon is Dr. Michael Chody. He's world famous. And of course, they looked at me like I must have known the most famous person in the world. And they went, wow, Dr. Michael Chody, you must really be sick. He only takes 1 out of 500 patients. When was the last time you saw Dr. Chody? I never met the man in my life. But the nurse who was helping me said, hang in there. Don't give up. And for 4 days, I'm in. I've got IVs going. I'm in and out of it. I'm Hopkins, a teaching hospital. And every hour they're coming in, Mr. Clark, you're going to die. You need surgery. I said, I'm waiting for Dr. Michael Chody. Meanwhile, we're calling him, and we're not getting any response. And day 4, I come out of a daze, and there's a man standing at the foot of my bed just looking at me, and I knew. And he said, I understand you've been looking for me. And I went to talk, and he went, shut up. I'm taking your case, but if you live, they had to reschedule 500 patients to take me. So he was a hero, and I got through the surgery. I was in the hospital for a long time. And when I left, and I think you all appreciate this, and everybody's listening, I hope you appreciate this. He sat on the edge of my bed, the world famous surgeon. He said, I have some good news and bad news for you. He says, the good news is you have a great attitude, and you're going to do everything you can to get back and get yourself better. I said, well, that's great. What's the bad news? He says, it's your attitude. You're going to have to learn to channel that energy in the right direction and listen to people and really avail yourself of people who know what they're doing, which leads to my next hero, which is you, Mitch. It was tough times. All of a sudden, like you said, Steve, you think you're young, you're invincible, you're immortal, you're an athlete. Next thing you know, you got this cancer that to stay off the internet. I'm being told I didn't have to go on the internet. Hopkins was telling me there was no cure. There had been no cure. And Mitch said, well, there is. They had just come up with some medicine. It's called Gleevec, which is now imitinib. It had been on the cover of Time or Newsweek magazine. And they said it works for some people. And that gave me hope. And Mitch said, Mitch's attitude, you're going to beat this. We have the medicine. Hang in there. And that really meant a lot. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have done. So they got me on the Gleevec, and boy, I got better. They took me off of it. A couple years later, it came back right away. They put me back on it. I'm on it every day the rest of my life. I take it right after lunch. I know I took it, but if that's the worst thing happening in my life, I'm in good shape. But I hope the story, we all go through this. You reflect back, where would I be without those people? And I just think that's an inspiration, hopefully, to everybody out there to really connect with people, listen to people, have the right attitude, and see your doctor when something's wrong.
That's a very good message and a very important message. And thank you. So for both of you guys, for me, family is critically important to us. I'm curious to know, because I don't think I know the answer to this. How did you break the news to your families? And then beyond that, for the audience, what's your opinion about support systems? I mean, Dave, you just were alluding to that a little bit about friendships and things, but I'm really kind of focused in on family right now. You both have wonderful, wonderful wives and wonderful kids in your life, but tell me a little bit about that.
Right. I'll start with that. Cheryl was with me when I got my diagnosis and stayed with me, and really could not have. I mean, I was out for several months, and she was there every day. My son, my diagnosis was in Iraq in the Marine Corps, and we were doing everything we could just to let him know everything's fine. We do have this under control. I have a son and 3 daughters. I always remember, it's a touching story. She was a cashier in high school at the local grocery store, and the story came in from my wife. Said that she didn't understand at first, but I know a lot of people in the community, but this is where family becomes important. She said she would look down, there'd be 6 or 8 cashiers. Nobody had any money in line, and her line would be 50 people because they knew. And everybody would stop when they came up to say, I don't know your dad or heard about your dad. It's going to be okay. So those are kind of things from a family point of view. It also teaches my kids. So you want to talk about, paying this forward. Teaches my kids a lesson in real life. What I try to share. We 3 all have the same personality. We're all extroverts. We're out there. We're engaging. Bring it on. But it teaches my kids the importance, as you say, Mitch, not just of immediate family, but extended family. Your family really is the community, and trying to make those connections and understanding that people really do care about you, and you really do need to draw on and appreciate that help is so very, very important.
Steve?
Yeah, from my standpoint, the diagnoses was Deb was with me during the initial scope of the nose and down the throat and those kind of things. So, I mean, her initial reaction was emotional, needless to say. Once she got through that, though, I mean, I can't say how much of a support she was. Probably the hardest thing was to make the phone calls to the kids. I have 2 daughters. One lives here in the Kansas City area, and the other one's out in Arizona. And those are tough conversations to have with them because, I know they looked at me as somebody who's healthy, who's vibrant, who's, as Dave said, extroverted. And they always kind of appear that, nothing can go wrong with that. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Right.
And my one that lives here, Jenna, is an occupational therapist by trade. So she was right on it. I mean, she knew exactly what was going on, and I had to have Carrie on the other side is somebody who always talked about, I can't care for you when you get old and run down, but I'll handle your financial side of it, so, because that's her thing. But it was fun. Jenna was at most of the appointments. She took off work. The grandkids were very supportive. They used to give me a lot of crap about being sick, and in a fun way, but it really helped my emotions deal with those whole situations. And I got to give my daughter credit for Carrie for during a couple of the chemo sessions. I mean, she flew out here from Arizona just to be with me during the chemo sessions. She had no idea what to expect and those kind of things. I said, it's going to be a boring 4 or 5 hours. I'm telling you right now, you lay down or you sit in that chair, they strap you in, they hook all the IVs up to you, and you sit there for 3.5, 4 hours and get your body full of poison. And that's really what it was. But I got to give her a lot of credit. She handled it very, very well. But the emotional support from and friends. One story that right in the middle of my chemo and radiation, I was still playing golf. The radiation doctor, just couldn't believe I was that active still. And I said, I don't know what else to do. I'm going to be active. And I think I shot my best score. I shot an even par that day,
No
and
surprise.
got a bunch of close friends out here, and all they kept saying was, all they kept
Bring
saying
that
was,
handicap down.
that's right. It's got to
Hell with cancer. I'm bringing that handicap down.
Drug induced. That's right. So they were giving me a bunch of crap about me being drug induced, and that's how I shot well. They said you're not getting chemo, you're getting steroids. So they all were very, very supportive, and I kept it jovial. And when I felt pretty bad and they'd call and say, can we come over and see you? There are some times I said, no, I really don't want to see anybody today. I'm not up to it. Sorry. But that was rare because I like having support around me, and I can't say enough of the support I got from especially Deb. We're just by ourselves here. The kids are grown and have kids of their own now, so she was there all the time, making sure that if I forgot to eat or forgot to have my oatmeal, she would make it and make sure I got it down and how you feeling and how you doing and those kind of things. So it was an emotional time, but a very rewarding time, knowing how much love you have around you.
Yeah, Steve, was it painful? Like when you had to eat the oatmeal or drink something? Were you in pain?
Oh yeah. It was very tough to get down. A bowl of oatmeal used to take me 15 minutes to get down.
Wow.
It was, it had to be something. The liquid Ensure that I drank was probably the easiest of the two, but it wasn't giving me enough nourishment, and it wasn't, those kind of things. But yeah, it was not fun. It was not fun for about 6 months.
And Dave, post surgery and things, and even beginning Gleevec, were you having pain, and did you have any side effects to treatment?
I joke with people, but it's really not a joke. I think I sprained my thumb pressing that morphine button when I came out of surgery. The first few days were they were really painful, but then it was okay. After that, it just became a long, slow climb. Gleevec it's an amazing drug. Most people do respond to it, but not for more than maybe a year or two. I have responded to it for 20 years. There's some discomfort with it, but it's actually okay. My experience is much, much different than Steve's. Steve, you're dealing both the emotional and the physical pain of that. I had the surgery, and the surgery was successful, and they removed my tumor. We're always worried about it coming back. So I just had to get through that surgical type of experience, and then understand that I'm going to be able to chemo the rest of my life. And my chemo experience is different than your chemo experience. When you're going and sitting for 5 hours, right, they're pumping you with poison. I'm taking 4 milligrams. So for 2 hours, I just want to go, curl up in a ball and take a nap. But it's really, really not that bad. So just entirely different surgical and pain experiences.
So I've known you guys my whole life, and I'm just, how has the battle with cancer changed your perspective and your outlook on life, or has it?
I'll take that one. I'm going to go back to the nurse who helped me, my hero, the oncologist, oncology nurse. She and I had always had a little battle. She's more laid back than I am, and felt that I had a double A personality or triple A personality. And so she was kind of gloating when I came out of the cancer because she was so sure that her advice was going to prevail. I was actually going to stop and smell the roses for the first time in my life. That sounded like a great idea. And that lasted about 2 weeks. Because what I realized was I've been given a gift. I mean, it was a gift. And how am I going to use that gift? And I remember one of the things when I was in the hospital, because my situation was so dire, one of the nice things about Johns Hopkins, if you ever have any experience with them, they're great, but they tell you like it is. They don't not sugarcoat it. And I knew my chance of survival were bleak. And while I was there, I kept hoping for positive stories. And one or two people came through. In fact, one person out of nowhere came through and told me about a stomach cancer patient that had succeeded. Another cancer survivor came up and said, I know this is dark times, but you're going to make it. And those stories of hope. So I said to myself, let's take this message, this lesson. And of course, the nurse, her name is Janet. I don't think she speaks to me now. She does. But I quadrupled my A personality and decided, well, let's do it. Let's get to it. And just really started looking for new opportunities. I don't miss an opportunity or a chance. If I hear somebody has cancer, I ask, even if I don't know them, may I call them? Because I want to give them a positive story. They need to hear a real life positive story, not just any false assurances. And I'll just share one little anecdote. My first, not my surgical oncologist, but my first oncologist, when I was trying to get through this in the first few months, I said, what's the long-term goal here? And he showed me a little bit of personality. He said, the long-term goal is for you and me to be high-fiving each other 5 years from now because you're still alive. Well, he left Hopkins after about a year, and he went to a hospital in Tennessee, and we kind of lost track, and I hit the 5-year mark. I couldn't resist. I found him. I found his email address, and I sent him a message, and the subject line was high five, and the text was, I know you remember. And he responded right away. High five back at you. Way to go. It's those type of things that you gotta have some fun. You have to have some humor, and you just have to make it work. And so that, I know it's a long answer, but you just got to really use this as a kind of a.
Can you reflect on any one particular example of talking to someone perhaps that was just recently diagnosed with cancer? Be it 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and just share that with the audience, please.
He's my age, actually born on my birthday. His father and my father were best friends growing up, and we knew each other as kids. Mitch, you might have even known him, Joe Robert. And Joe was very successful real estate entrepreneur, ran the boxing competition, a real philanthropist, really did a lot for the community, but we hadn't talked probably in 30 or 40 years, and he was diagnosed with brain cancer. He fought a courageous fight. He hung in there for a long time. In the end, it got to him. But I reached out with a message to him after not talking for 30 years and just, hello, Joe, and told him from my heart what I went through, that I knew what he was going through, and to do everything he could. And he responded. And I mean, he was actually very emotional. Not just that I'd reached out, but with what I said to him, which is kind of personal. His father, my father, they both had some challenges in life, and they beat those challenges. They overcame a lot. And I think just knowing that we're tracking each other, he thought I didn't know who he was. I said, no, I followed your whole career. I know who you are. And now it's time for the next thing. And so we went back and forth a couple of times, and it made me feel like I was helping him. I know I was, but it was just very touching.
From that,
thanks for asking.
Issue, I think he and his family did some boxing fundraising events for cancer research. Huge, raised millions and millions of dollars for cancer research. So,
absolutely.
He took a negative and turned it into a positive.
Yes.
Steve, you've had so many years helping senior citizens and doing what you did in nursing homes and things like that. You must have seen people in those homes dealing with cancer and their families and all that. Do you have any reflections on any of that, especially now that you are a cancer survivor / thriver?
Yeah, that's yeah, I had over, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3,000 residents that I oversaw. I was oversaw 25 skilled nursing facilities in Kansas and Missouri, and traveled to those. I spent most of my time on the road because I wanted to be in the field to see what was going on there. Yeah, and I had an opportunity to meet with several families, several patients that were uh, back in the day. One story that I'll never forget is the one that we started in an age unit about 30 years ago. And we thought that was something, but it was, end of life for AIDS. When they went and they needed skilled nursing, they were on their, last week or two of life. And I'll never forget walking into one gentleman's name. His name is Dave, actually, which kind of reminded me of Mr. Clark there, but his name is Dave, and he was probably 6'6". And I saw a picture of him on the side of his bed, and he was a big man. He was a football player back in high school, played in college, and I was starting to talk to him a little bit about that. And he reflected on the fact that because he was homosexual and he acquired the AIDS problem, and he said, I don't regret anything I've ever done in my entire life. And it was just one of those stories that stuck with me about he kept his attitude. I mean, even in his last week of life, his attitude was, I've lived a good life. I've had a lot of love in my life. And those are the kind of things that he really held on to desperately. And I don't think I'll ever forget that. And that was 30 plus years ago. So, and I had quite a few different family members that I used to love going into the residence rooms and get to know them in all my buildings. Always had my favorite in every building. But the cancer people were the ones that were kind of special, I guess, in my estimation, for the fact that most of them knew that it was the end was coming, and they were okay with it. They were ready for it. They were at peace, and they had reflected back in their life. And most of them that I met were very, you know, very good about, their life was fulfilling for them, and they had a lot of family support. Unfortunately, we did had situations where the families were all over the country and did not have time. So our staff, and I think I had something to do with that, were their family. And I think that they gave them an opportunity to kind of get down into the dirt with us and talk a little bit about their life and their experiences and those kind of things. But it's been a rewarding career in that respect. And I think that's hopefully molded my positive attitude that I normally carry with me. And very, very few times I'm down in the dumps, and it's got to take a lot for me to get down in the dumps. So I just it's just been a rewarding time. But meeting that and going back to one of the things that Dave said earlier was how you, Mitch, I remember calling you and letting you know that I had the cancer diagnoses, and your friendship meant a lot to me, obviously, with the years we've known each other. And I'll never forget Dave calling me probably 2 hours after I'd got off the phone with you. He said, I just heard, and your positive response to me, Dave, was I'll never forget that, saying, you've got the right attitude. You're strong. You're going to get through this. Don't worry about it. I know you well enough where you're going to get through this. And that meant a lot to have the both of you be that support. And I know both of you called or texted every now and then to say, hey, how's it going? And hopefully I was truthful back with you. When I had my bad days, I expressed it. And when I was having some good days, I did. But my diagnosis was a lot different than Dave's. I mean, I wasn't in a death situation. I guess it could have been if I wouldn't have gone
Right.
quick enough. I guess that's a message to the audience. Like Dave said, go to the doctor if you're not feeling well. Go.
Get screenings, get tests, go to your doctor. Extremely important for
Yep.
everybody out there. And not everybody can do that. We
Yes.
have issues with cancer health disparities out there. But our job is to make sure we educate people and make sure that they do go and get their screenings and tests and see their doctor on a frequent basis. One thing that I love to chat about a little bit about mentorship and mentors, and just kind of curious for both of you, any specific mentors really made a difference in your lives?
So it's interesting you asked that question, Mitch, because it's a subject that I spent a lot of time on. I even maybe sound preachy on this, but um, I have been fortunate to have a lot of mentors. most of whom I did not select. They selected me, almost as a tough love. Come here and listen to me. Really reached out to me in lifetime. So it'd be hard pressed to say any one in particular, but I do want to share something with you when I talk to people about mentors. We often think about a mentor as some wise, older person who understands everything. And that's nice if you can find that. But I find that some of the best mentors are the people who surprise you the most. They're not necessarily the ones who are older. Sometimes they're younger. I always remember the great basketball coach, Morgan Wooten, who's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, who is a mentor of mine, saying that, he would give a coaching clinic and he would say, understand something, you as a coach will learn more from those kids every day than they'll ever learn from you. And the day that you stop learning, stop coaching because you're not listening anymore. And so, it goes back to ask people, listen to people, listen to people. Everybody has something that they can teach you. Everybody's struggling with something, and it's their struggle sometimes. And when you get the trust, and after a while they share that struggle with you, they just become more human. And so that, Mitch, I want to touch on something else you said there about getting tested. I can't say this strong enough, and I'll put it as a first cousin to mentoring. If you don't feel well, go to the doctor, but take somebody with you. Take an advocate with you. Take somebody who is going to speak, I'll say, truth to power. Take somebody who, or maybe your spouse, who will smack you upside the head and say, listen, if you know what I mean. But take somebody who is truly a friend, truly is going to listen, and is truly looking out for your interest, because in effect, they're a mentor at that moment, because it's hard for you to process that. So thank you for asking that question. Just surround yourself
Great
with
answer.
people.
Steve?
Yeah, I think I go back way back to eighth grade. A mentor was Bruce Lang. I don't know if you remember that name or not, but he was a coach of the
Yes, I
Eastern
do.
Eastern Junior High School, and on there he saw something in me because I just started playing. I didn't know if I had any talent or not, but I thought it would be a good thing to go out. And I'll never forget. He pulled me off to the side several times and talked about, you've got the right attitude. You're somewhat athletic, and note the word somewhat athletic, because at that time I probably wasn't very good. And he really forced me to work. And I think that stuck with me for a long time. He kind of instilled that work ethic in me. He said, once you get done playing basketball, or we're here, your thing is you got to go out. So, I used to spend hours on the basketball court just shooting around, doing anything I could to become a better person. And I gave him a lot of credit for that. Unfortunately, he died several years ago. I was in eighth grade at the time, but I'll never forget him. I guess it's just one of those things. I'll never forget him. And I tried to promote that in my career. I am a mentor to several young administrators out there in this healthcare field, and I'm just a big believer. It's all about attitude. It's really your influence is nothing. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. How you influence others to be moral, ethical, and do the right thing. I've always lived by that. Do the right thing at all times. So that was kind of my story about a mentor, anyway.
Yeah, that's great response. And I do remember Coach Lang. I do think that Tacoma Park Junior High used to beat Eastern Junior High on a frequent basis.
We were terrible. Right? We were terrible.
So, guys, I want the audience to know, and I think they're seeing this, watching this episode, this very special episode, how important these guys are in my life, and how they're paying it back, and they're continuing to pay it forward. I'm constantly amazed, and I think friendship is friendship and family, but we're family. We're very much family as well. I can't thank you guys enough for spending a few minutes with us today and sharing your story with the audience, with really important story and some important lessons for everybody to hear. You guys are the best, and I love you very much, and I think this is going to be a great episode, and I can't thank you enough for being here with Believe in Progress, because we all believe in progress in cancer research, and I know you guys stand by that as well. So thanks so much for your time today, fellas.
Mitch, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Steve and Dave, for joining me today and for sharing your incredible stories and perspectives. Your commitment to making a positive impact and the strength of our friendship remind me just how important it is to surround ourselves with people who inspire and uplift us. To our listeners, I hope today's conversation has resonated with you as much as it has with me. It's a reminder that progress isn't just about the milestones we achieve, but also about the people we have by our side on the journey. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends and loved ones, and remember to subscribe to the Believe in Progress podcast for more inspiring stories. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, keep believing in progress and the power of collaboration and friendship in making a difference. Together, we can continue to push forward and create a brighter future for all. Remember, cancer research saves lives. Check out more episodes of Believe in Progress at AACR.org. Believe in Progress. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. This episode is produced by CollegeCast LLC.